and Jay, or James. What do you usually go by, Jay?
It's usually Jay, to be honest. Yeah, James is the official. You might need to allow me to do some sharing because I've got a presentation in the background.
We'll do that just now. So Jay, I first met Jay out in New Hampshire, working at Loon Mountain in the 07-08 season. And I think towards the end of the season, passed your American Association of Snowboard Instructors level 3 exam. And then the visa system got a bit more tricky. There was a cap came in 2008, and you launched Maverix in the UK, which was, I think at that point, really focused on the freestyle coaching end of the spectrum, focused on the UK, and you've since broadened out beyond that to other countries, and lately sort of started focusing on the free ride, off-piste, split board end of the spectrum. So been around a while. You've also gone through the basic system, and I think, I don't know if you've completed most or all of the level 4 in their system at this point. So a lot of experience, a lot of qualifications, and looking forward to hearing you on the Pillars of Fun.
Cool. Let me just see if I can share some stuff in the background. Alrighty, cool. Yeah, thanks guys for joining me on this session this evening. So, I mean, James has kind of introduced me a little bit in terms of my background and stuff like that. So just to give you a little bit more of a kind of heads up, can everybody see the slide? Just a thumbs up to make sure I've got that. Brilliant. So yeah, working with James and stuff, I was kind of working through towards my ISIA in the States. And I saw that as a really good route for me to be able to progress, I suppose, from the business perspective in terms of being able to make it more a sustainable career in terms of snow sports. So that's kind of where I met James there, 07, 08. Prior to that, I did a lot of dry slope stuff. So I did a lot of part-time teaching in between a normal kind of traditional career in terms of marketing and public relations based around in London and stuff. So did a lot of part-time teaching, and then going to the States was when I kind of tried to take things a little bit more seriously. And then following that visa lockdown, came back to the UK, established Maverix as an opportunity just to keep myself alive, really, keep the cash rolling in. And that took me through the BASI system. So as you can see, I'm through that. I've got my ISTD, I've got my French Kart Pro, and so that's enabled me to do some stuff in France, typically in the summer, do some bits and pieces in Austria as well in the winter, do some stuff with Ken in Sweden as well, end of season stuff. So there's a kind of mixed bag of things. In addition to those kind of qualifications I've got already, I'm also working towards some international mountain leader stuff, and also working towards some Austrian kind of mountain guide qualifications, just to keep the progression going, so I'm not just kind of stale in terms of my own qualifications and my own progression and stuff. Now, giving you an idea of what I do, I suppose, when I'm in Europe and working with clients, these are just a few slides that just give you a flavour of stuff. So I work in some European domes as well as in the mountains and things like that, but I'm not teaching traditionally on kind of beginner slopes and things like that. So I'm taking small groups of personal clients out and kind of taking them either split boarding, might be working on little tricks, just fun stuff, and also just doing kind of backcountry builds and just that kind of adventure stuff that I think the market is kind of craving a little bit more nowadays. And that's a little bit of what I want to talk to you guys about kind of this evening. And just as we look through some of these shots. So just mixed bag stuff really, but what I'm finding, and I don't know whether you're experiencing that a bit more, is that the focus for the clientele is changing a little bit. The demographics are changing as well with the guys that are typically riding and things like that. So we're getting an older group of guys now. And what I'm seeing is they do want to work on new skills. They do want to progress, but we're in that kind of Insta age where people just want experiences and things to kind of shout about and say, oh yeah, I did this at the weekend and I did that, and it's kind of really cool and wow, because they're kind of competing with all their mates that are doing other interesting activities. And that's changed the kind of mindset a little bit in terms of how I approach my teaching, instructing and coaching. And I think there's something as well that might be good, I suppose, for you guys in terms of trying to establish those kind of more longer lasting relationships with clients that can go not just from that single session, but more kind of multi-day, multi-year approach to kind of teaching and instructing and coaching. And what I feel is that we're kind of getting to that stage where, yeah, if we can do stuff properly with them, then we should be seeing them for, you know, years to come, really, if we can kind of create that kind of bond with them. So this evening I want to talk a little bit about that changing kind of perspective in terms of how we teach or instruct people, and then those blockers that I identify as a coach, really, in terms of kind of stopping those guys from progressing with their riding, be it on two aspects, so their mind and their body, basically, just to keep it really simple. Now, in terms of what I see, in terms of our normal kind of instructing mindset, if I say I start with that, I think typically our focus is very much kind of thinking about, right, we want them to learn loads and they're going to be challenged and stuff like that, but our focus isn't necessarily on the kind of being present, like the feeling of stuff, you know, reflecting on the moments that they're engaged in with you on the slopes and stuff like that, and also about the kind of flow aspect, which is that unconscious effort of guys that have been instructed or taught by you guys at that particular time. So I find quite often we're in that, when I think of instructing, I think of very much of teaching a new skill to individuals, and it's probably going to be challenging, but we're not overly focused on the kind of the fluffy stuff and the feeling of stuff. And what I think is, as we move towards being more coaches and that longer term relationship, I think we need to change that dynamic a little bit, and we need to kind of more focus towards the feeling and the flow aspect, and coupled with some challenges, but the learning is almost a bonus aspect that kind of comes through from that. So I think about, from as we move beyond just instructing to coaching, then it really does, I found from working with guys for a number of years, is that the more you can foster the feelings and the flow in terms of what you're providing as products, or in terms of how you kind of train those guys, then it seems to be the client retention and the fun aspect and stuff like that really kind of comes through. And has anyone got any questions on kind of this kind of concept in terms of what I'm trying to push there, just so guys, I'm not kind of going on one crazy tangent? Has anybody got any particular questions? Are they all happy on that? So yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry, I'll hold it down. Would you say you're kind of saying that feeling is the baseline to build other things on top of? That kind of idea, like feeling is the place to start?
I think so, because when you know, when I kind of took a step back and thought, what is really special to me about snowboarding or skiing and being in the mountains and things like that, it's soaking up those really awesome moments where I'm on the hill, where I might be kind of just get off the lift and it's fresh pow and it's kind of like bluebird, and you just take a little moment to be like, oh wow, this is really amazing. Like I'm getting jazzed right now. I'm like, well, right, let's get strapped in. Let's hit this run. Let's just rip it up. Do you know what I mean? It's those kind of little elements that kind of come through. Whereas if I kind of went heavy on the learning, I get off the lift and I'd be chatting to people and go, right, we need to learn this today. You know, we need to focus on the visual ability. Do you know what I mean? You get lost in that kind of explanation of what's going on. Whereas actually what we need to do is get off the lift and just go, oh wow, guys, look at this. This looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to just rip this up. And that then goes into that kind of flow aspect. We're like, right, we're going to go on this run and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to just charge around and get into that unconscious kind of mindset in terms of how they ride and what they're doing, and not trying to force anything too much. Is that kind of go with what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was just checking that I was, it's kind of a Maslow style pyramid.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if you're meaning like, like learning is the most important thing, or it sounds like more what you're saying is kind of like you lead up to the learning kind of happens if you get the other things right.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we need to, when we're teaching guys, I think it's very much give them a little bit of what they need and a lot of what they want. And quite often as instructors on that side, we kind of overemphasize the learning stuff. I need to get all this stuff done. I need to go through all this checklist and stuff like that. So it can be a little bit overpowering. So as you guys move into, I suppose, that more coaching mentality, that mindset, then it's thinking about how do you foster the feelings and the flow and the challenge aspect that leads to learning. And I'm guilty of quite often is that I kind of go a little bit heavy on the challenge side and almost shit people up with little things that I want them to do. And I kind of almost need to step back a little bit and go, right, come on, let's soak up kind of what's going on. And what I do, I'm going to go through some of the mind stuff in terms of the blockers and things like that. So the stuff that kind of gets in the way of you feeling and getting into the riding aspects of what's going on. And when I think about this, it's kind of covering these kind of aspects that kind of flow through. Now, you guys are going to deal with stuff on a daily basis in terms of those issues that people may have, those frustrations or those fears and things like that. So I'm not necessarily going to kind of cover any of that stuff, but as you go into the more coaching stuff and the longer term relationships with guys, then these little kind of cubes kind of crop up. And this can go not just for your clients, but also for yourself. So when I'm thinking about, the imposter syndrome stuff there, it's, you might be thinking, oh my God, this is the first time I'm teaching this advanced lesson. And, they say they want to lay down calves or something like that, or they want to do some crazy nose butters. And I haven't really tried those much yet, and you can kind of get that little bit of kind of tension building up. And I often think that kind of stuff is that if let's say 25% more than the guys you're teaching, you're the expert. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to know everything. Yeah, you just need to know a little bit more than the guys that you're teaching, and they will then kind of latch onto you and trust what you're doing. And you don't necessarily need to demo absolutely everything, but having that little bit of a basic understanding of the mechanics of stuff will then help kind of build up. And so you won't kind of get as stressed if you are teaching those new elements and things like that. So in terms of these other bits and pieces, it's quite common, isn't it, that fear of failure, things like that. When guys are trying new stuff, they're going to feel that tension and they're going to be like, oh God, this new trick, I'm really not sure about it. And once again, it goes for you guys as well. But quite often when I'm chatting to clients about stuff, when they're in a pressure situation, it might be in a dome that's full of other freestyle riders, and they're a complete newbie, and they think that everybody is watching them, and they're like, oh my God, like, what is going on? Everyone's going to think I'm an absolute idiot when I fall over and stuff like that. Whereas, I'll chat to guys and be like, well, I find that really you only notice the worst and the best riders around you. So if you can just get in that little kind of middle ground, in all honesty, no one's really going to notice you unless they're your close mates and stuff like that when you're riding. So it's those kind of little psychological strategies that you can kind of plant little seeds in them and be like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I don't need to worry too much about that. Do you know what I mean? So most people are going to be so worried about what they're doing, they're not really going to focus too much on what everybody else is doing and things like that. I mean, I know you're going to have fear of injury stuff, aren't you? So that's probably one of the biggest issues, isn't it? People are going to be like, you really want me to try this? Really? Because I'm kind of thinking I'm going to hurt myself. And what I find, and what you'll see in a video I'm going to play in a short while, is breaking down those movements, those bigger movements, into little blocks. And that way you can allay their fears, build up their confidence, build up their muscle memory, all that kind of stuff. So very rarely, unless I think someone's really got some good skills, I'm not going to be kind of going, show me where you're at. Do you know what I mean? Like they'll come to a course and they'll be like, oh, I've got 360s on lock. And I'll be like, okay, all right. Can you do 180 on the jump for me? And then I'm like, oh my God, that is shocking. And you're just like, all right, let's take a step back. Let's kind of do some stuff flatland wise. Let's build that skill set. Show me you've got those foundations. And then we build up through those elements to then achieve their end goal, which might be, say, that 360 on a jump and things like that. So I think that's one of the key elements that I find is to allay the injury fears, is to build up that skill set, just in little kind of baby steps and things like that, and hide those goals as well. You don't need to be overt in terms of explaining all the different components that you're going to be building up for them. Sometimes they don't even know really what they want, like the end goals. They might be like, we're on a flatland course. Do you want to learn anything particular? And they're like, well, actually, no, I just want to kind of come and just mess about. So you can take them on that journey and just kind of experiment with them and things like that. And then they can learn some cool stuff on the way. Overthinking, I think we've all been there, haven't we? We just overanalyze stuff. We look at that massive kicker or something and we'll be like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? The elements of the unknown and things like that, isn't it? And that's where I think you might be able to support people a bit more. So quite often, with young kids, they'll want me to do stuff first, going over that jump first. It shows them the speed, it shows them the turn shape, it shows them, the confidence in the air and things like that. Do you know what I mean? They can start to do their own self-analysis and things like that. So there's less kind of thinking going on, things like that. And that visualization as well, isn't it? Just taking a step back and going, right, I'm going to think through this trick. For me personally, if I can't kind of see me achieving the trick, then I know it's probably not there at that time. I need to take some moments to really work through all more of those foundation movements. And when I kind of see myself achieving success and stuff, then there's less of that overthinking and those other fears don't come in. And then we've got kind of lastly, I suppose, the fear of the unknown, which kind of links through to the overthinking, which is, oh my God, I just don't know what's going to happen. This is going to be quite intense. And what I do is kind of separate that a little bit and give myself set parameters. So for instance, I'm working on backflips on the trampoline. I've got the basics. I'm not just going to try and bust out 10 of them or something like that. What I might do is go, right, I'm going to do 3 and then I'm going to chill. I'm going to set myself a little target. You might be doing another trick, say like a lay down carve that loads of people ask about nowadays. Right, I know I'm going to get covered in snow, going to get cold and wet trying this. I'm just going to try it 3 times and then I'm going to chill. I'm going to set myself a little goal, achieve that, and then I'm going to relax so that I can kind of then just unwind. And if it's feeling really good, I might have another 3 goes, but I'm not going to set my expectations too high. I'm just going to kind of do what I think is achievable. If I give it 100% commitment, which is really important, which we'll kind of look to later, but that kind of real big commitment for a limited number of reps, and then that makes things a bit easier. Have any of you guys got any thoughts, any comments on that kind of focus from a coaching perspective?
I mean, the overthinking really goes with the injury fears hand in hand. That sort of, I think we've all been there. You look at a feature, you sort of in your mind's eye watch yourself going over it and imagine sort of landing on your head, landing on your shoulder, sending it off the jump and not finding the landing, or overshooting it, or winding down the windows, and it's hard to get that sort of like image out of your head and get an image of like yourself just riding it the way it's meant to be, ridden and landing the trick just fine when you've got that negative image in your head. So the fear of failure, like I remember trying, I went into the big park at Sierra for the first time, and I was looking at the smallest jump in the big park, and I started doing the run in, feeling really good, and then just like as I was coming to the flat before the takeoff, I was like, "No, I've lost my bottle. I'm peacing out." I had this image of like going sideways and pancaking in the air, and that was fear of unknown, fear of failure, overthinking, injury fears all in together. So totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance, isn't it? As a coach, you should be a little bit more in tune as to the ability level of your clients and know kind of how much to push them without pushing them too far. And also being, I suppose, clear in your communication, like what you've just mentioned there. So for instance, I've seen an example of a guy on the summer camp, not a client of mine, but he'd spent the whole week in the rookie park. It came to Friday, and then he launched it off one of the, the small pro line jump, did exactly what you said, 2 back foot heavy, scooted off, landed on the knuckle, broke his femur. It was intense. I couldn't believe it. So it's, it's understanding your clients, knowing that they've got the basic foundation skills, and then nudging them slowly towards their kind of goals, so they don't overshoot it. You know what I mean? They don't push themselves too hard and then break themselves. So in terms of some of the coaching side that I do, I've just got a short video. I've literally pulled together some clips from what I typically do in the UK, and that's kind of more instructional based stuff. But what I'm trying to do is switch the mind off a little bit through just fun exercises and drills. So I won't be kind of overt in terms of saying, oh, we need to sort out your foot steering or your balance or something like that. It's like, actually, no, we're just going to try and do these fun things. And then what you find is through that fun, playful activity, then their skills kind of develop over time, and it becomes a lot better. So just a short vid, just a few different exercises that I've done, might give you guys some different ideas. It is all pretty much, for me, snowboard related. I've done a little bit of skiing coaching, but not loads. And I'll just use the tools that I have around me, be it snow, ski poles, whatever I've got lying around, just to make things safer, more interesting, and stuff like that.
You almost need a lightsaber there.
Yeah, exactly. And just things like that. If you've got the opportunity to play in the park and set stuff up, then you can get people in the right position, so they're feeling that they're building up their muscle memory and their skills without throwing themselves in at the deep end. And then it's adding in the play stuff. Like, we're all kids, we're all playing in snow, so let them have a bit of fun. Don't be too dry on bits and pieces. So this is like a ski stag do. Like, end of the session, there's like a little ball, and we're just going to play football. And this is great on skis as well as a snowboard, just messing about, because you'd be surprised at the skills you can develop just by moving around and playing around. This is just a simple balance drill. I was just like, oh, I'll see if I can carry my cup of tea down the slope. And then I get a client to do it. She's laughing, she's having a bit of fun. It's working the board control, all those kind of little elements. And it's just taking their mind off the objectives. Just kind of that distraction, kind of fun stuff. I presume you guys will have done these kind of things, just once again, off snow, just messing about, getting that muscle memory in place. Little balanced fun stuff, messing about, falling. And it's like me as well, just kind of you got to play with the guys. So don't just think, oh, I should be kind of directing operations. It's like, get involved. Your enthusiasm is going to kind of come out in those activities. And use creative ways. Like, I'm just trying to get this person to put more weight on her front leg to initiate the turns. So just getting little exercises like this, just trying to get that knee to flex, get it just moving around. These little traverse hops are actually really difficult for a lot of people, but it's well worth working on. And then just play about. Static balance drills, really important. This is getting them ready for doing like little board slide activities, front side 50-50s if you want to kind of jump onto rails or boxes. How much control have they got? And then with the kids as well, it's just playing, isn't it? And then when they're falling, which we all know, isn't it? It's just make a bit of a joke about it and just get stuck in and have another go. Little obstacles. It's amazing how it focuses the mind, just having something to jump over. you want to work a few little exercises and skills like that, you know, supporting someone like this, working on a bit of switch, but just switch straight run. I've got the ski pole. I'm knowing she's not going to accelerate out of control. She feels comfortable. She can start to get more balance. Get the mind off turning as well. And then obviously messing about with kids' snowboards, random stuff. So what I've got here, this last section is just, this is a typical 2-hour coaching block. Now this woman wanted to work on backside 180s. So we were just trying to get her, you see her foot adjustment or foot placement's not quite bang on. So I'm trying to get this kind of even weight takeoff, even weight landing, and not dropping onto her heels too much. And you can see on this first trick, as she tries it, she drops her heels in, boom, she's over. It's that kind of thing. We can work through that stuff off snow, and then we start to build up on snow. And then you start to work the approach line, just these little movements. You're just kind of building and building and building. It doesn't have to be, oh, we're going to go straight and try back ones on a jump. It's just slowly easing into that and just refining those different phases of the trick, so it becomes smoother and better. And then transferring the skill set to another kind of obstacle. So a lot of skills transfer across. So it's like, okay, well, let's play on this bank. All right, cool, boom, there we go. So it's just kind of working on those basic build-ups and things like that. Has anyone got any questions on those? I presume that's a lot of kind of the stuff that you'll be doing anyway with your own teaching. I presume it's nothing revolutionary. I don't know if anyone's got any questions on that.
I think for me, one of the key things is just that creativity I saw over the last 5 minutes is sort of permission to go outside the box a little bit rather than just deliver the same old every, you know, here's the box, open the box, do the box. Next, you know, here's the box, open the box, do the box. It's a lot more just brainstorm with the customer kind of idea.
And it's going to make it more fun for you as well as for them. Like if it's super stale, who wants to, you know, I never like seeing someone being coached at the top of the slope, but someone's just standing there directing operations, and then they chip off down the slope. They can't even see what they're doing, and they're on their phone chilling out, and then they come back and go, yeah, do it again. Yeah, do it again. So that is really boring. And I don't want to be standing up there all day doing that. I want to be interacting with them. I want to be riding with them, protecting them, adjusting little bits and pieces of their posture as we kind of ride down and things like that. There's so many different stuff that you can add into the mix.
I think it's
also,
also,
I mean, that's, yeah.
I was just going to say it's a big one in the UK. Kim, you might be able to input on this. Like a lot of people seem to do a lesson and their skis or their snowboard is like the side salad that nobody eats. Like the instructor never puts on their equipment and actually ride. And you're like, dude, how can they learn anything if they never watch you doing it? Like you're the instructor, need to put the gear on sometime.
Yeah, it does. It happens quite a lot at Snow Factor, working in the Dome in Glasgow, and a lot, sometimes instructors would just stand at the bottom, or you just see them just going like, oh, do one more, like, just lap, you know, and it's just, it's boring, like, but yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, I've done a season of coaching in the Dome and stuff like that. I've done part-time there for a number of years, and I mean, it's tough. It's not straightforward. But the more you can make it entertaining for you, the more it's going to be entertaining for them. And that means, I think, trying to keep your board on as much as possible, your skis on as much as possible, you know. No, definitely. So that kind of covers a bit of the mind stuff, which I think will be, you know, more applicable for you coaching wise. But the issue I find next is as we move towards the body and things like that. So the issue I often find is as soon as guys start to work beyond just the basics, then certain issues start to arise in their body and their fitness and things like that. And I think it's applicable not just to your clients, it's applicable for you guys as well. And I'm sure you've all got, your own fitness routines and bits and pieces that you do. For me, I've got a mix of kind of climbing, kind of functional, basic fitness stuff, running, cycling. I just try and mix it up a little bit. But what I've found is through working with these guys for a number of years, there's certain kind of hitboxes that you can see there that really do hinder people's progression. And so I just want to kind of run through those and see if that kind of hits anything with what you guys are kind of experiencing in terms of what's going on snow. Now, I mean, often, although we think lack of balance is the most pivotal thing, because it is a balanced sport per se, I do find that people's lack of agility and flexibility really holds them back. You're going to get a lot of office workers and things like that. They're going to lack range of movement. They're not going to be that mobile. When they take a slam, they're not going to have the muscle elasticity for it not to pop. And quite often I'll get guys coming out for a week and literally they'll get to Tuesday and they'll just be in bits, and they'll need that Wednesday kind of recovery day to just get the body kind of back in tune again and things like that. So those kind of, that agility, and that's what I try and do with some of my drills and things, is try and do it kind of off the board a little bit and then build onto the board. So just get them moving, get them jumping around and things like that. Just because we find that even if we think about the central themes and what they're teaching, we don't really need them to be that agile or that flexible, because the movements are quite simple. But as soon as you step beyond that, then it starts to hold back their progression. If I talk about lack of body awareness, what I'm meaning is kind of knowing where your body is. If you do try any flip stuff or anything like that, what's your awareness like when you're upside down? You know what I mean? We had some guys come and do some training, and we did some forward rolls, and literally one guy was like, I think I'm going to be sick. Like, he hadn't done a forward roll since he was like 10. And it's those kind of movements, and it just feels really alien, things like that. If you're thinking about, once again, freestyle stuff, when you spin in the air, are you aware of where your body is so that you can make adjustments in the air to make that kind of trick happen, or refine any little mistakes that you might have made at takeoff and things like that? You might be I often see, you can see someone fall before they even realise that they're falling. They just don't know, do they? They just suddenly, boom, boom, and you're like, yeah, well, I saw that happening a mile away. So it's those kind of things, just that lack of kind of awareness of what their body's doing and how it feels in the air and stuff like that. And that leads me into kind of body accuracy. As you saw in the video when I was working with that girl, in terms of trying to get the feet placement. So when I'm getting guys to jump on and do like a rail, where they might kind of jump both feet at the same time, quite often they can't do it. They just haven't got that accuracy of placement of their feet and things like that. So once they need that agility, if they haven't got that accuracy, it's just wasted power, and they just flail around. And that's what you often see in the park. Some guys will just push way too hard for a trick, and they'll think that because they're a strong individual that they'll be able to muscle through it. But actually, they need that accuracy to be able to place that and direct that power. And that kind of leads through to that explosive power. I find a lot of guys, when they're trying stuff, they might go a little bit half-hearted into it and be like, yeah, well, I kind of want to do this, but the mind stuff's coming in, I'm a bit fearful and things like that. They kind of lack that little drive just to kind of punch through straight away to make something happen instantly. If you think about certain movements that you need to do, think about the power curve of stuff. When you're coming up to a jump and then you're about to spin, as soon as you get to that little takeoff lip, you need that boom, explosive power just to punch through. And if you're a bit half-hearted, you're not going to get that ollie or that nollie or something like that. It's just not going to happen. And so you just lose that. And then underpinning that is the balance, isn't it? Which we all know. Do you know what I mean? If you ask someone to stand, on a bean can on one foot, they can't hardly do it. So it's those kind of elements that it's a tough one to try and build into what you would be doing in terms of maybe a longer term coaching session with people. This isn't I'm with someone for 2 hours. It's like, actually, I might be with someone, a couple of times a year or something like that, where you can start to see their weaknesses and then what you can do. And it's a tough one. You can suggest things, you know, I had a client write me an email this morning. He's like, I'm going to work on my strength and flexibility over this kind of lockdown period, and so I can get strong for the winter. And I said, cool, don't forget to work on some proprioception stuff, you know, jumping around and just precision jumps and things like that. Just little things that will actually probably add as much, if not more, rather than him just being able to bench press a load of stuff, you know. So it's those kind of things that I think definitely need to be thought about, and it's just be subtle in terms of maybe the way you suggest it. It might be almost a lead by example, really, is that, you know, talk about what your training is and what you do to supplement your own riding. Because I found, you know, a long time ago that just doing the activity wasn't enough to keep me injury free and things like that, you know, and be able to sustain weeks on end of riding with people and stuff like that. There needs to be a little bit more into it. So I think that kind of would hopefully kind of build up through from there. Anybody got any thoughts and considerations on that? You know, what kind of training do you guys do? Do you even bother? Do you just keep it simple? Do you just do yoga stuff? What kind of mix have you guys got?
I'd say I'm pretty. I find it hard to motivate to just go to the gym and lift weights, as you say. But I think doing different activities, it has to be something I'm going to enjoy. I mean, I can go out on my bike for hours because I enjoy it, but I'm ready to go home after 20 minutes at the gym. So I think that's, for me, it's the key. I'm really trying to get myself interested in climbing, but I haven't quite managed to find my love for climbing. But yeah, surfing's the big one. I think, yeah, being in the waters, I think kind of good all round.
No, definitely. I mean, I tried a couple of surfing sessions last year, really enjoyed it, and the crossover I thought was remarkable. And yeah, there was a lot of the same feelings and sensations and stuff. I was pretty stoked on that. You know, the climbing stuff, I felt just that balance of upper and low body, and the brain activity stuff as well, I thought was quite good, and just the thought processes and things like that. I'm going to show you a short video now of kind of the mainstay of my training, and I think that's similar to what, is it Roddy was speaking a second ago? I need stuff to be kind of entertaining, and so what I've been doing is kind of more of a crossover gymnastics and free running stuff. And so I've tried to try and take some of the kind of things I want to achieve with my snowboarding, and then try to break those down off snow and make it fun and challenging, and bring in these elements. And that's where I've kind of come across this kind of, you know, all these different elements here. I've really kind of identified them in myself as I've gone through, because I've noticed these weaknesses as I've tried to do these moves off snow. So yeah, just some basic intro stuff here, just little precision jumps, just little things, balancing, just real easy drills that we've been doing off snow that really helped. Just getting that body accuracy, falling, just messing about, just different ways of kind of moving and getting agile.
I like the slow-mo.
Yeah. Now this element, I'm going to pause it briefly. So this move, it's called a palm spin. So you're basically just spinning around the arc, kind of almost like a cartwheel really. But using this movement, then basically you can kind of get it to work the same thing as a Miller flip, pretty much. And I've used that to help build stuff. So you can see here, just kind of going through. Now, another thing I've always been keen on is front flips and back flips. So they're calling it kind of like a side flip when you do it free running, but you can see the progressions of kind of doing crash mat stuff off the side of things into more crash mats. It's just building up the power and the consistency and transferring that skill to another element. And you can see there, that's just one of the local kind of pros. And then you can just do the front flips in different avenues and stuff like that. So that's just one way in which I've kind of taken it and say, right, I really want to get my flips together. What can I do? I'm not going to be throwing myself off every kicker. and powder's not available all the time. So I've kind of used that to kind of go into the gym and just work on some different elements. And I've definitely felt that that's, although I'm probably not 100% there because I've got some really bad habits, it's definitely helped boost my explosive power, my confidence and things like that. And you can see here, as we move into some of the backflip stuff. So once again, just simple progressions that start at a real basic level. And you start to build that core strength. You start to build that, once again, that agility, as you start to think, right, these are the kind of movements that I need to kind of work on. And then you get that kind of support. So you start to, once again, trust in your own skill, your own strength. And then you can transfer it to like a bar. This is my wife, Sian, she's doing it statically. And then you can do these things called wall flips. So you get that support again. So you kind of just get all these different movements kind of running in without having to risk life and limb. So you can see there with the airbag stuff, you can kind of build through. And then this is one of the kids that I coach, James, just doing it at one of our dome sessions. So yeah, that's just a different way basically for you guys to kind of think about your training and see if there's other avenues that you might not have considered. I hadn't really thought about it. You know, I watched kind of Ninja Warrior and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, that's quite cool. Yeah, I'll have a little play with it, you know. And that's kind of led me probably on this journey for about, you know, probably a couple of years now, just doing different things, and that's kind of definitely helped in terms of my mindset as well as my body stuff, and that's really helped me progress through with my riding to a better level. And I'm hoping that, you know, just thinking a little bit differently about your teaching, your focus in terms of the coaching, in terms of trying to work through the feel and the flow and the challenge stuff, and then kind of encompassing that with the mind and the body stuff will hopefully help you guys kind of just think a little bit differently about what's going on. So if you've got any questions, obviously I've been whittering on for a bit.
Was the gym sessions there, was that with a group, or is that something that's organised? Because I'm looking at that and thinking that looks great, I'd love to go and do that, but I know if I rock up at the there's a trampoline place when things kind of open up, you know, eventually there's going to be like loads of kids running around, and I'd maybe prefer to go to the session where it looked like it was kind of quiet and adults.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I did the open gym stuff before, kind of like you, a bit of trampolining and stuff like that, and it never really worked for me. So those classes were specific adult classes. And then what we would do is bolt on our own sessions where once you've got some basic skills, like going riding, isn't it? Once you've got the basic skills, you can go off and do your own stuff. And that's kind of it, really. So I've done some adult classes for a while. And then we were like, oh, cool, we're going to do what we call the open gym, and we'll just go and work on stuff and refine it. So I would have a look around if that's something of, you know, of interest. Like I said, I've definitely
you could maybe try a staff trip or something.
A what, sorry?
Do like a staff trip kind of thing. We'll all go for like 20 of it, descend on the place.
There is the new place in Manchester, isn't there? Which has a lot of the kind of foam pits and stuff.
That would be cool. It's a little bit of a trek from the Scottish Highlands, but maybe if we make a weekend of it or something, that might be worthwhile. Get a cheap and cheerful hotel or whatever.
No, definitely. I mean, stuff like that can certainly help, and it gives you a little bit of a flavour. I know some of my, you know, there's lots of classes running all around the UK and things like that. I know, you know, a couple of my clients have kind of got into it, you know, just to help them, and it's definitely made a difference in terms of their riding.
Yeah.
Any other training ideas that you guys have got and stuff?
I quite often use the analogy of Tai Chi in lessons. And a while ago, me and my friend we both got a bit of a background in martial arts as kids, so we'd kind of gone and done a load of different things and did sort of one Tai Chi session. But yeah, recently, as a sort of lockdown thing as well, just to kind of keep active, started doing some online Tai Chi, which I actually found really quite calming, and, you know, a nice little break. Like I do a bit of yoga, but it feels like a bit of a hassle to go and get a mat out and stuff, whereas Tai Chi is something, and I think, I'm not putting down yoga, it's great and, definitely beneficial, but Tai Chi is just something that you can, like, if anybody smokes or used to smoke, it's like the equivalent length of time and amount of effort as going for a fag is, do a few Tai Chi moves. And yeah, I think in terms of using it as an analogy in teaching, I think it's definitely the little bit that I've learned makes me feel more credible when I talk about flow and using that analogy of Tai Chi.
I think the Tai Chi stuff is definitely something that I'm starting to look into. It's something I'm interested in terms of what you say, that flow and the balance and the body control elements and things like that. I think there's definitely some value in there. Some of the yoga moves and bits and pieces like that, I'll do stretching, and I don't kind of class it as yoga, but I'll do a stretching routine and stuff every week and things like that. And there's definitely some strong moves in there, but yeah, I think stuff like some of the Tai Chi stuff is definitely worth kind of investigating especially as you get older as well,
I think for me, a big one, I had my ankle reconstructed through 2 surgeries about 2.5 years ago. And as you can imagine, I had a few ankle injuries leading up to that. So over the years, I've spent a lot of years in physiotherapy effectively through multiple injuries when you add up all the rehabs together. And I now have the equivalent of a small physiotherapy department in my living room. And the good thing is, like I think all of us coach snowboarding or skiing, and the real like value that we represent to the customers is we show them how to do it the easy way rather than learning the hard way. And when I learned freestyle, I learned the hard way. There was nobody to show me, or if they were, they kind of said like, just look left and you'll end up spinning eventually. Do you know what I mean? And things like that. Like, they meant well, but it meant that I ended up with a lot of injuries. So I've had my shoulder reconstructed as well. But with the like physical side of things, like maybe us as like ski and snowboard instructors, we don't know enough. But it's not like there's no way to learn or nobody who knows what we should do. There's physio. Like what I did a few years ago is there was a university that people were learning to be physiotherapists at, and you could get really cheap sessions with a trainee physiotherapist. So I did all sorts of stuff with them. Didn't cost very much money because they're all trainees, and it's just a few miles down the road. But I was in a big city at the time. But that's a big thing for me, is it's not like it's completely unknown what you should do to get more agile or more like strong or learn flippy spinny stuff. There's people who can show you.
No, I mean, I think that's it, isn't it? I think it's taking a step back at identifying any weaknesses in your own riding and stuff like that, in your own physical, mental well-being or whatever, and just figuring out strategies to kind of work on those and strengthen those elements so it all kind of balances out. Quite often people go, it's like riding performance, freestyle, off-piste, there's so many different avenues, and as much as you can kind of progress everything, I think it all helps kind of build you up across so many different levels. Cool. Any other specific questions on anything going across there? I'm hoping it's of value. It's a bit of a mix of stuff. It's just my kind of personal take on, in terms of kind of the coaching and the business and stuff that I've been running, but I'm hoping that there's some bits and pieces in there that you can take away.
Something I've been thinking is so I did a little bit of coaching at the start of the season before British lockdown came in, and people had already been locked in for quite a few months. And I remember the customers I had, they were tired by the time they'd put on their snowboard boots. Like, no exaggeration.
They're sweating.
And by the time we'd walk to the bottom of the beginner slope, they're like, oh, this is really tiring, this snowboarding thing. And I'm like, you haven't even put it on. But like, I realized, you know what, James, you're not very fit either. Do you know what I mean? Like, just because I'm slightly more fit than they are, or have just enough skill to get away with poor fitness, doesn't mean I should start thinking they're bad people or something, or they're never going to learn.
Yeah.
They actually learn really, really quickly. Do you think maybe if people are like particularly like not fit, that maybe focusing on the feeling and the flow might be a good kind of like in that session that you've got right in front of you? Granted, you'd love them be fitter and do, go to gym and do flippy spinny stuff first, but they haven't. So in the meantime, do you think the first half is a good solution to the second half?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely helps, doesn't it? That distraction thing. And it, when you're instructing, you've got to get stuff done. You need to work around the parameters of what's available. Quite often I would kind of cheat for people. If I knew they couldn't stand up on the heel edge, I'd have like a bin lid or a little foam kind of cube around the corner, and I'd just chuck that down for them and just say, cool, just sit on that and just get strapped in. I don't want to just have someone dying like on the snow trying to stand up on their heel edge. You know what I mean? I don't want to be dragging them off the ground. So it's just working around what you've got. Like, how can I make this fun and enjoyable for them without them being absolutely destroyed? Because I want them to come back, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, I mean, you can distract them a little bit and say, right, they're up now. Brilliant. So what I would do, they're probably really tired and bits and pieces like that. They might be doing that heel edge side slip towards me. I'll grab a snowball and throw it to them. So I kind of distracts them. So it keeps their head up, keeps them balanced. They're not really thinking too much about the board control. They're just doing it naturally. So they're like, right, catch the snowball. Boom. Oh, you dropped it. Oh, no worries. Here's another one. Boom. Boom. Do you know what I mean? You just little games that you can play with people. And then you're kind of interacting with them as well. And, that kind of takes their mind off how knackered they're feeling, I think.
I think this maybe ties in a little bit with what you kind of said at the very start about taking your time to enjoy the moments of being in the mountains and things. And I guess that sort of relates to empathizing. I guess it's maybe part of a kind of maybe a sort of slightly mindful sort of thing as well, of especially if you're somewhere absolutely incredible for a whole winter. And one of the nicest things I think in instructing and coaching is if you're doing it, regularly, that it becomes normal, and you can kind of relax into it in a sense, rather than the difference between that and a holiday where it's like this all has to happen. We have to have as much fun as possible right now. Just being able to relax, and I guess just that kind of reminding ourselves of how brilliant these places we get to be in are, and not taking it for granted too much, and certainly remembering as well that people that we're taking out are going to be absolutely blown away by the place. And I think I guess most places, and we all sort of feel quite proud of the place, and when people are saying it's lovely, it's like, oh yeah, it is, and want to show people all the bits of our resort that we feel really attached to. But yeah, just kind of keeping that feeling and remembering how lucky we are, even if it is a dreich day and bad conditions or whatever.
No, I think that's really important. I mean, I find that my circumstances mean that I don't do seasons anymore. I just go out for particular weeks with clients, and I think that's helped me keep that kind of perspective a little bit, and that I'm kind of in the same boat with them. I rock up and I'm like, oh, I'm super excited. Come on, let's do this. You know what I mean? Whereas I think if I'd been all season there, come week 7, 8, or whatever, I'm like totally burnt out on it. And unless it's the Bluebird Mega Powder Day, I'm going to be disappointed. Whereas actually when I'm there and I'm kind of just rocked up and then I'm super fresh, and I don't care what the weather is, we're going out and we're going to make something happen. And I think, that, like you say, for you guys, I think it's trying to, detach and just keep that connection, isn't it? And that feeling of what those guys are going through as they kind of come onto the snow, isn't it? And be like, whoa, this could be their first time on the snow. You just don't know, do you? And it's like, oh, wow, yeah, I remember. That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Jay, I was just thinking as well, like, this is 2021. Do you think it's about time that when we sell a snowboard or a ski lesson, that people kind of like got a package where the week before their lesson, they got an online tutorial in how to do some physical moves, like just jumping around their living room over like a skip rope or hopping on the spot or something like that, as like a prior reading kind of thing or whatever, you know, pre-training, so that when they go to the actual real on snow, on, you know, slope session, then they're more prepped than they would be otherwise. You know, people might be more receptive to that than they would have been in the past.
You know, I think there's definitely value in that. Like, it would definitely help, and it'd get them engaging with you earlier, wouldn't it? And just them buying into the whole process, which I think is really good. The tough part is, would people have the inclination all the time? That's the tricky part, isn't it? Because a lot of people are always, they're very time sensitive, aren't they? And so it's kind of like, all right, I booked this lesson, I rock up just in time to get all my equipment, I get everything just, you know, I mean, just in time. I've got my 3 kids, it's absolute chaos. So it's a tricky, I think for certain people, it definitely would have value. I know for some of my clients, they'll send me some videos of them doing stuff at home, jumping around, spinning around. We'll chat and analyze it, and I'll kind of give them some stuff to do before we then meet up for the next coaching session. So I think a blanket for everybody, possibly not. Certain people that are into that kind of training mindset, I think would definitely value it. Maybe it's something more supplementary. So it's almost that optional stuff, isn't it? So, right, you just booked your lesson. If you are interested, this is really cool stuff that you could do. And that means you're going to progress quicker. And, you know, you probably won't have to do as many lessons. It'll be cheaper. You know what I mean? You just be like, really just get them kind of in there. So that's maybe that kind of optional, build up. Because I mean, plenty of people do kind of look at the trick tip type stuff and the how-tos, don't they? So there's definitely some kind of market there. It's just weaving in the right kind of story around it.
It's the kind of thing where, I don't know about you, but like the stuff that you've presented this evening, it just shows how a bit of creativity can go a long way. And I was just sort of riffing off it there. You know, I think there's some opportunities that present themselves to us for the winters to come. And I think, you know, the sort of flatland drills that you've put in place there are going to be a good sort of like starting point to think, oh, I wonder if I could do this. I wonder if I could do that kind of thing. And even just like the fact that you went on those rubber ring things down the slope, you know, it's like, oh yeah, fun. I remember that. Fun was supposed to be part of it, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry, I'd forgotten.
I think that's it. You know, try and add those little elements that are going to make you laugh, you know, both you and the client on each session as much as you can, if it's those little things, because it just makes a massive difference. If you can get some kind of positive emotional response, then that's going to embed it in their mind about how awesome that experience was, and then they're gonna come back for more. Definitely.
Well, if anyone else has like any pressing questions, like the you know, now's the time. For those, Carl, I've seen you before. Chris, Kim, Roddy, Jay, you're all very welcome back. Like every week. Same for yourself, Ken. We've had some like absolutely brilliant presenters over the weeks. I think we're on week 8 or 9 or something like that for the Glencoe Mountain Snow School. Our next session is Saturday, March 27th. We'll be doing a social, so it's a virtual pub quiz. You're all very welcome. You might get to know some people you never met before. But in terms of the sort of presentation of instructor information, the next one is on Friday, 2nd April, 7 p.m. UK time or London time. And that's with a lady that works in the snow school here at Glencoe Mountain, lady by the name of Patsy. Roddy is her husband. Roddy, any updates on what that session is going to be on?
Sorry, pass at the moment. Yeah,
it's going to be a session. She's got to the 2nd of April to come up with what it's about. And we'll be continuing on those sessions till at least the end of April. We've got Snow Camp, who are a UK-based Snowsports charity who are bringing skiing and snowboarding to inner city children. They'll be doing a presentation in the not-too-distant future. Also, Disability Snowsport UK is going to do a session on adaptive snow sports, so helping people who have either cognitive or mental disabilities to learn to ski or snowboard. So looking forward to that as well. And there's some more ones in the offing. And Jay's session just made me think, I have my physiotherapist from a couple of years ago. I might see if he's interested in doing something like this, but we like have it in our living room or hall or whatever, and we do a sort of mini physio session of jumping about and doing flippy spinny stuff with, like, you know, stuff that you might have in your home. I'll ask him. But if anyone has any ideas of things they'd like to see, kind of what I have in mind is I'll keep doing these as long as people find it interesting and useful. And I definitely found that interesting and useful. You've got Jay's PayPal in the chat box there. Feel free to copy it, paste it, and send him a virtual beer. And he's also on Instagram, and you can check him out on Maverix. Is it .com or .co.uk?
.org.
.org.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So I'm just going to hit stop on the recording just now.